Welcome to the 14th Annual BBT Africa Conference, titled Touching Lives, Touching Hearts, One Book at a Time. In a letter to Lilavati on the 26th of March 1972, Srila Prabhupada wrote the following in reference to his books on Krishna consciousness. The more such literatures are read and distributed, the more auspicity will be there in the world.
My name is Jayalalitha Devidasi, and it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the 14th Annual Bhaktivedanta Book Trust Africa Conference. The theme for this year's conference is Touching Lives, Touching Hearts, One Book at a Time. The BBT Africa Conference started 14 years ago, and the aim was to share inspiring, out-of-the-ordinary experiences about how Srila Prabhupada's books have impacted lives. To start off this year's conference, we will hear directly from the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, in a video titled, This Is My Request.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam.
In the early 20th century, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who ordered his disciples to preach Krishna consciousness around the world. He especially desired to distribute Krishna-conscious literature in the Western countries. His disciple, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, took this order as his very life.
In 1944, he single-handedly begins publishing and distributing Back to Godhead, a fortnightly. But often he leaves Vrindavan to print his magazine and books in nearby Delhi. Traveling takes time and tolerance, but Bhaktivedanta Swami accepts it as part of his spiritual mission to broadcast devotional service to Lord Krishna. In Delhi, Bhaktivedanta Swami personally distributes copies of Back to Godhead and, with small donations, struggles to maintain the publication. He regularly sees Surendra Kumar Jain, a printer.
It was somewhere in the month of February 1956 that I first met Prabhupada. He came to my press for getting the magazine printed, Back to Godhead. I found that it was not very easy for him to collect money. He would come to the press practically every day, and after the printing was done, he would do everything himself. But he was a dedicated person, a very committed person. And at the times when he was not in a position to pay the bills, I would ask him, why are you running this? Why don't you stop it? He would say, no, it is my mission. And one day, Surendra Kumar, you will see that I will succeed in my mission.
By 1964, Bhaktivedanta Swami completes 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri lauds his accomplishment and recommends his books for placement in India's public libraries.
Festival takes place.
Wherever Srila Prabhupada is, he continues to write prolifically. Rising long before dawn, he spends hours translating and commenting on original Sanskrit and Bengali texts.
Or sometimes they wash their hands and feet before entering the temple.
His most significant contribution is his books. Professors from dozens of major universities use them as standard texts and write appreciative reviews.
The narrations concerning the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, are the oldest writings known to man. Over generations, they have influenced civilizations in both the East and the West. Now, under Srila Prabhupada's guidance, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust has become the world's largest publisher and distributor of these spiritual classics. Srila Prabhupada himself is the author of all of the books. He has been acclaimed as the world's most distinguished scholar and teacher of Vedic philosophy and culture.
Established in 1972, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust exclusively publishes Srila Prabhupada's works. It becomes the world's largest distributor of books in the field of Indian religion and philosophy. For Srila Prabhupada, the transcendental knowledge in these books forms the basis of the Hare Krishna movement.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
You have to simply take instruction from Guru, and if we execute that to our heart and soul, that is success. That is practical. I have no personal qualification, but I simply try to satisfy my Guru. That's all. My Guru Maharaj asked me that if you get some money, you print books. So, there was a private meeting talking, some of my important God brothers also there, it was in Radha Kunda. So, Guru Maharaj was speaking to me that since we have got this Bhagavajar and marble temple, there has been so many dissensions. And everyone is thinking, we'll occupy this room or that room, that room. I wish therefore to sell this temple and the marble and print some book. Yes. So I took up this from his mouth, that he is very fond of books. And he told me personally that if you get some money, print books. Therefore I am stressing on this point. Where is book, where is book, where is book? So kindly help me. This is my request. Print as many books in as many languages and distribute throughout the whole world. Then Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
With this year's theme of touching lives, touching hearts, one book at a time, the focus is to highlight the transformative influence that takes place through preaching and book distribution. We will also look at how to encourage devotees to wholeheartedly embrace the pursuit of knowledge through diligent study of Srila Prabhupada's writings. Our first speaker for today is His Grace Govardhan Das. Govardhan Prabhu is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami and a senior leader within ISKCON, serving in various leadership roles. Govardhan Prabhu serves as a governing body commissioner for the Southern African countries, as well as a member of the GBC Executives Property Oversight Committee, and has taken on the responsibility as serving as the co-chair of the GBC Organizational Development Committee.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, friends and well-wishers of the African BBT. Welcome to the 14th, yes, it's indeed the 14th annual BBT Africa Conference. Again, an online format for your convenience and for the transcendental convenience of our future generation of book distributors. BBT Africa continues to grow, continues to expand and fulfill its mandate to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. So there's so many initiatives, so many exciting initiatives and efforts, like the imminent publication of the Isizulu Bhagavad Gita, the Creole Bhagavad Gita, Shastradan being constituted as a tax charity in South Africa. So many committed BBT Africa devotees doing wonderful things, new ideas, renewed enthusiasm, digital migration, e-books. Even the last Bhadra Purnima campaign, coordinated by BBT Africa, saw the distribution of 600 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. So there's lots to share with you. Srila Prabhupada's books, they are the single greatest force on the earth. They have the potential to change one's life, change one's consciousness, change one's destiny. It definitely moves the needle. Srila Prabhupada's books can transport a conditioned soul from the streets of Kali Yuga to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan in one single lifetime. So they are precious. It's a treasure chest. So one book at a time, every book has someone's name on it. You might be interested to know that someone on the planet receives one of Srila Prabhupada's books every 3 seconds. It's our desire, our aspiration that somebody receives Srila Prabhupada's books every 1 second. So there's an urgency. This is the most sacred work. There's nothing more necessary. There's nothing more urgent than giving out Srila Prabhupada's books. Now, from the deep meditation of Srila Vyasadeva, we've received the Srimad Bhagavatam. From Srila Prabhupada's hands, we've received the very same Amala Purana, that Chakravati Purana, and so many small books like candy, sweet candy, have come from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So our purpose in these conferences is to share realizations, to share the Bhagavatam message, to inspire each other, to ignite our evangelistic spirit, to take up the dearmost task that's given to us by Srila Prabhupada, his sacred duty to distribute his books. So let's do our best. Let's do our very best, one step at a time, one book at a time. I trust that you'll find this online conference an inspiration, convenient, and it'll inspire you to reach out and grab your book bag. Somebody is waiting for your mercy. Somebody is waiting for your kindness. Hare Krishna.
Segment 1 is premised on 2 excerpts from letters that Srila Prabhupada wrote on the 18th of November 1972. The first is to Jagadish Das. If he buys one book, his life may be turned. That is best preaching work. The second is to Jadwaita Das. These books and magazines are our most important propaganda weapons to defeat the ignorance of Maya's army. And the more we produce such literature and sell them profusely all over the world, the more we shall deliver the world from the suicide course. So your work is the most important preaching work. May Krishna bless you more and more. Thank you for helping me in this way.
To begin this first session, we will start off with a panel discussion. On our panel today, we have His Grace Prem Vilas Das. Prem Vilas Prabhu joined the ISKCON movement in 2001 and received initiation from His Holiness Indradumna Swami in 2009. Prabhu has served for many years in organizing the preaching, outreach festivals, book distribution, as well as temple activities locally in Mauritius as well as the Seychelles. Encouraged by and under the instruction of senior ISKCON leaders, Prabhu has organized the preaching in Seychelles in 2016, which later saw the official registration of ISKCON Seychelles.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our second panelist for this morning is Her Grace Palika Devi Dasi. Palika Mataji is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Chiru Swami. Mataji started distributing books on a small scale with friends and family in 1987, which grew on a larger scale in 1990, where she started to venture out to people she was not familiar with. Her Grace Palika Mataji currently resides in Johannesburg, South Africa, and is a mother, a wife, and inspiration to Vaishnavis in our yatra.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Our third panelist for this morning is His Grace Gopakumar Das. Gopakumar Prabhu has been practicing Krishna consciousness as a brahmachari in the Cape Town temple for over a decade. Prabhu has been distributing Prabhupada's books from the very beginning of his Krishna consciousness. In the Cape Town temple, Prabhu was a leading book distributor, and he later started traveling under his Guru Maharaj's instructions to distribute books across Africa. Prabhu first received the Science of Self-Realization in 1997, but only got to read it in 2010, showing that the books that are being distributed are time bombs sitting, waiting to transform lives, anywhere, anytime.
Hare Krishna.
To start off our panel discussion today, we will see a video from Bhakta Francis from Kenya. Bhakta Francis is going to tell us about the impact of Srila Prabhupada's books on his life and how it helped him to find purpose in everything he does.
Hi, my name is Francis Gedinji, and I am a reader of Srila Prabhupada's books. Actually, before, I used to consider myself a reader of books, but now I consider myself a reader of Prabhupada's books. I first got these books from my friends, then I got my own copies from the temple. I remember the first book I read was called Chant and Be Happy, had a yellow cover. Then I read Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. Then I read another book called The Science of Self-Realization. And then my favorite, which is called Life Comes from Life. But these were all people's books. They were not my copies. So I asked one of my friends where she got the books from. And she told me that she got the books from a street party in town by the Hare Krishna devotees. So I went to the Hare Krishna temple and got my own copy. I got my own copies of the books. So I actually got even more copies than my friends had given me. And I've been reading them until today. So I read them second. I read them going round. And I've been learning a lot from the books. Actually, my life has been changing. I feel like I've been becoming a better person every day. Every day I present a better version of myself to the world because of reading Prabhupada's books. So one of the things that I immediately learned upon reading Prabhupada's books is that there's really no meaning. There's really no reason to be anxious in life. In life, all you can do is do your best and leave the consequences to God. Yeah. One of the messages that comes out clearly from Prabhupada's books is that we are not in control of the consequences of our actions. So there's really no need to be anxious about our actions. And also the fact that life has a purpose. I learned from the books that life has a purpose. And the purpose is to associate with the most perfect person. To associate with the best. And it's possible. There's a formula of how to associate with the best. In the books, Prabhupada says you have to chant the holy names of God, and then you can perfect your life. So the books have given me a purpose in life. And one more thing that I've learned from the books is that everything in life has value. Everything from a blade of grass to the president, because all of them are parts of God. And all of them are doing whatever they are doing because God is enabling them to do. So I have come to appreciate life a way lot more because of Prabhupada's books. Apart from that, I've also learned so much about myself. Before reading Prabhupada's books, I didn't know that I was a spirit soul. I didn't know who I was actually. I thought I knew who I was, but now, at least theoretically, I can say who I am. I can differentiate myself from the designations that I get from society. Now also I can also say that I can speak about God. I can say something small about God. And like before, I didn't know anything about God. I wasn't an atheist. I don't know what I was. I wasn't anything. I was just floating. But at least now I can say something about God. And I know that I have a relationship with him already. Before I knew him, I already had a relationship with him. That's why I was alive. So all I'm doing now is to try to make that relationship conscious. And it's happening because of reading Prabhupada's books. So in conclusion, I would like to say that I'm very happy to have found Prabhupada's books. I will continue reading them, and I would like to read them forever, which will happen because I love the books. Yeah, thank you.
The words of Francis will inspire our first panel discussion for this morning. So my first question relates to the theme that we have for today, touching lives and touching hearts one book of a time. Each of you has a very personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada's books. We've heard from Francis about the impact that Prabhupada's books have had on his life. Can I ask each of you to please share a little bit more about the impact that Prabhupada's books has had personally on you? Palika Mataji, can I ask you to speak first?
The science of self-realization had a great impact on my life because I used to ask a lot of questions. As a child, I was very curious. So I asked, why did we do certain rituals? And nothing was explained. It was the answer I would get is, because the forefathers have done it, therefore we follow. And that wasn't sufficient for me. So the science of self-realization gave me an in-depth knowledge as to why we do certain rituals. I mean, we don't follow rituals, but why we do certain things or how things should be done. And especially when we have a departed soul. How do we preach? I mean, how do we save the departed soul? How do we help them along their journey? And I discovered that you could, from reading the book, that you could just chant in front of their picture. It was so simple. Just take a picture, chant in front of them, and they will make spiritual advancement.
Thank you very much, Palika Mataji, for sharing that. Prem Vilas Prabhu, going to Mauritius and your experience in Seychelles, how has Prabhupada's books touched your life?
Thank you very much. I think that distributing Srila Prabhupada books, personally for myself, I read Srila Prabhupada books, his Bhagavad Gita as it is, that was given to my father, and he kept it for many years. And it was finally I who read it and became a devotee, getting inspired by this book. And then when we distribute these books, I mean, first of all, people are curious to see that there are books that are speaking on so many various topics that touch people's lives every day, things that they want to know on a daily basis. And when they get these books, I mean, they look like small books, but they are so heavy with knowledge and like with hope, and it helps so many people to like really get into it and start their spiritual journey, or like revive the spiritual journey. And this is something that really for me is a big encouragement for keep on going distributing Srila Prabhupada books.
Thank you, Prabhu. Gopakumar Prabhu, how has Prabhupada's books touched your life?
I was born in an atheistic family. No one in my family was interested in religion. But strange enough, I became very interested in religion because religion was introduced to me at school. But the only religion that was introduced was only Christianity. There was no other option. So I grew up like not having any interest at school with any subject, to the point where even my teachers went to my parents and complained that this boy doesn't pay attention to anything. He only pays attention to religion when you talk about Christianity. So I grew up like that, and then I got some training. I became a Christian pastor. So I was a Christian pastor for 7 years. And I was trying by all means, to practice what I was preaching. So when I first received the science of self-realization, I guess I was not ready. Krishna knew that actually it wouldn't make sense to me at any point until I experienced whatever experiences I had after receiving the sense of self-realization. Because after that, I became very rich. I had lots of money. But money started frustrating me to the point where I almost like lost my mind, and I started making bad investments, and I had lost everything. I ended up in the streets. For 3 years, I was homeless. And then I started to realize actually whether you have money or not, happiness is not possible. So a few years later, after 3 years, I started getting money again. And I noticed that I'm chewing the same thing I chewed before. What's the use of like getting more money when I know that I won't be happy? So I voluntarily gave up my job and went back to the streets voluntarily. The first time I was forced by material nature, but the second one, I just decided I want to be homeless. You know, maybe I left the streets too soon. Maybe God was trying to teach me something in the streets. And that's when I met devotees. And then somewhere, somehow, by Krishna's arrangements, when I first went to the temple, I saw the sense of self-realization. That's when I realized that maybe this book was trying to tell me something. You know, I was ignoring it for a long time. Maybe I should give it a read. And I gave it a read. And by Krishna's mercy, I started chanting. And immediately when I went to the temple, I just started distributing books without even anyone telling me. I just saw books lying around, and I went to the streets and started distributing. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Definitely, I think our relationship with Krishna consciousness starts with the books. I mean, personally, my parents had received a copy of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as a wedding present in 1980. And for many years, the book was at home and we would read it. As a child, you had to read one verse every day, but you didn't properly understand it. And it was only later on when we got into the Association of Devotees that we started to properly understand Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and especially Prabhupada's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and how these books actually slowly start transforming the heart. So that personal transformation is there. But when we distribute books out on the street, or when devotees come to the temple to collect a book or to take a book, as has been in your experience that's there, it starts to touch their lives. Can you share some stories or some experiences that you have had where devotees, after many years, come back and tell you, you know, there's this book that you had given me once upon a time, and this is where I am now. This is the impact that the book has had on me.
So actually, I can remember one story. One devotee here has a similar story as a Gopakumar Prabhu. Some devotees went to their house and distributed the science of self-realization. And the person just took the book and kept it on the shelf. And then after 7 years, he decided he would like to read the book. And he read the book, and immediately this created such a change. He wanted to become a devotee, and he became a devotee. And he brought all of his family, his mother, his wife, his children, they all came to Krishna consciousness. And now they are like initiated devotees, they are practicing devotees, and they don't only practice themselves, they're also doing programs for others. And this devotee, at that time, when he started to come in the association of devotees, he said, I wasted 7 years of my life, because if I had read the book when the devotee gave it to me, maybe I would have become a devotee then, and I will have been able to practice for all these years. So this is one amazing story we have here about the devotee.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very inspirational. And these books, we've always been told that they're time bombs that sit on a bookshelf somewhere, you know, waiting for when somebody picks up the book and starts to read it, and how it actually transforms, as you've mentioned, not just one life, but the life of an entire family. And then they go on to transform other lives. And it has this exponential change factor when we distribute Prabhupada's books. Anyone else to share some stories? Because these are the stories that inspire our book distributors to go out and to distribute these books, knowing that they will be changing lives.
Okay, we went to a house program the once, And I happened to see a Mataji there, and she says, Hare Krishna Mataji, and very familiar with me, and I can't for the life of me place her. She says, Mataji, don't you remember me? And she gave me details as to where we met and what we spoke about. And then she told me, do you remember you gave me the first copy of the Abhay Charan series, one of the videos, together with the book. And she says, from watching the video serial and reading the book, she had become a devotee. And only when she told me where we met did I recall that I had met her previously. And I was very thrilled to see her, that she became a devotee. And we met at a jeweler, to be specific. So she says, I'm no longer so materialistic. So, yes.
So there's lots of stories of how people from different, like in Cape Town, I haven't heard any person who like came back and tell me that they became a devotee. But normally I will meet people from overseas, because Cape Town is like a tourist place, who tell me they're practicing in their own countries later on. But I would love to share like a very immediate effect on a person by Prabhupada's books. So one day I was coming from book distribution. I was only left with about 4 books. And I'm outside a McDonald's. There were 2 ladies sitting outside McDonald's. I approached them. I tried to distribute books to them, only to find out that they were friends, only to find out that they were just religious fanatics. I won't mention any name of religions. So, but they were like coming from different religions, but they were friends. So one of the ladies told me that you don't, like, I've never seen someone dressed like this and talking about God. And my book tells me that in the end, there will be lots of like religions coming up and from the devil, so-called the devil. And then she asked the friend, don't you know about this? And the other one said, yeah, even my religion says the same thing. So somewhere, somehow, when things are like that, I normally like just tell people, oh, it was an honor meeting you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I left. But that day, by Krishna's arrangement, I just stood there, froze there. And this lady was like chastising me, insulting me. People came to stand around me and like shouting, tell him, tell him. And when I was doing that, one other lady came and sat next to them. And they tried to involve this lady. And this lady started laughing and saying that, please don't involve me in this. I don't even believe there's God. There's God. So I realized I'm having this fanatic and then an atheist. But still, I didn't move. So after they shouted at me for a while, the atheist said to them, please give this man a chance to talk. Why are you just talking and talking and talking, not giving him a chance to defend himself? In her mind, she was thinking, you know what? She was more entertained by these 2 ladies. Now she wants more entertainment. She was getting bored. So I started speaking on Prabhupada's philosophy, quoting like the science of the life comes of life, about atheism and stuff. So as I was talking, the other ladies tried to cut me off. The atheist said, no, let him talk. And after a while, she asked me, what are the books about? I explained. She said to me, let me see the books. And she took the Life Comes from Life. She read it. Immediately after reading few lines, she said to this, she asked me, are you selling this? I said, no, I'm not selling it. You just give a donation and get a book. And she gave me some donations. So she was carrying 3 books with her. Instead of giving me the other books back, she took 1 book. She was so convinced by Prabhupada's philosophy. Immediately she took 1 book, she gave to 1 atheist, and she took the other book, she gave to another atheist. She said, give this man a donation. You're talking nonsense. So that's how powerful Prabhupada's books are. It has power to change an atheist in his mind, about atheism. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that story and how Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada speaks to so many people through his books, through his commentaries that are there. And in that way, it touches so many lives. Next, we will watch a video from Bhakta Kamita from ISKCON Nairobi. Prabhu is going to tell us how books changes lives, especially how Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita changed his own life when he found it on a coffee table at his friend's house.
My name is Bhakta Kamita from ISKCON Nairobi, and I'd like to share my story on how Srila Prabhupada's books are changing lives, touching lives, one at a time. So, this Kartik, 2023, I'll be marking 3 years of me being in the movement. I came to the ISKCON Nairobi temple in 2020, Kartik, and at the end of my visit, after a very, very blissful visit, I was gifted a Bhagavad Gita. At that time, I didn't know what it was exactly. But when I randomly opened the book, the pages, and came to the picture pages, I noticed a familiar picture, the picture that shows the journey of the soul from boyhood to youth to old age. And I had seen it before somewhere. So I immediately took out my phone and I called my friend and I told him, yo, bro, my friend, we had been practicing yoga and meditation and sort of trying to reach out from the scriptures from the East or, YouTube videos and all that. So I wanted to share my experience at the temple. So I told him specifically that I'd seen the book that is in there sitting, because that's where I'd seen the picture. But at that time, when I saw it at their home, I didn't know exactly what it was about. I thought it was a nice book. I thought it was talking about some nice concepts. But to be more specific, their home is a very, very, their parents are strict Catholics. Actually, the father is a leader in their church, and they're very, very staunch. But somehow this book existed on their table, and I saw it very, very many times, and no one ever sort of thought of taking it away because it has like foreign teachings and so on. Yeah, but I had encountered the Bhagavad Gita miles away. Actually, their home is about 100 kilometers into the interior from our capital here in Nairobi, Kenya. And when I asked, how did you get this book? Chris asked his siblings, his parents, but they still don't know how the book got to their home. But somehow the Bhagavad Gita, as it is by our own Srila Prabhupada, had gotten to such a place, and it has made devotees. I am now practicing, and even Chris as well is also practicing, and we're experiencing the sweetness of Krishna consciousness. So in this way, we can see how the little efforts that we take to go out on distribution and try to give out the books without, being very attached to the results, without trying and making these people that we're meeting in the streets to immediately become devotees. Perhaps there's gonna be a long chain. This person gives the books to this person, and this other person then like that, or it takes some time, some few months, years, decades, but it is quite clear how this process of book distribution is definitely changing lives. I am a clear result. So in this way, I have more conviction to go out and distribute books and try and be a little more detached from immediately getting the results. All glories to Srila Prabhupada's transcendental book distribution. All glories to Gauranitai Sankirtan Party. Hare Krishna.
Apologies, we seem to have lost Gopakumar Prabhu due to some connection challenges, but we will continue with this very inspiring conversation about how Srila Prabhupada's books are changing lives across the continent. From the last video, we've seen how Prabhupada's books have actually traveled into different parts of Africa, both in terms of the cosmopolitan areas of the big cities that are there, but also going out into the different rural areas in different countries. Devotees, if you can please share, and I'll start this time with Palika Mataji, getting the books out, not just leaving them in the temple where devotees come to the temple and request, but that actual activity on going on how both congregation devotees, grihasta devotees that are there to go out and distribute Prabhupada's books.
We were at a Chinese doctor, and we were sitting with a whole lot of patients. And I just felt like speaking to one of the ladies. She looked rather sad. So I spoke to her, and she tells me that her son is very ill. He was in the last stages. He had the last stages, or going through the last stages of cancer. And his mom was very perturbed and worried about it. So I told her, we have this book. These books, it's called The Science of Self-Realization. One chapter there is dedicated to the soul. It discusses about the soul. And there's another book called The Chant and Be Happy. And this book will introduce you to God. Through the chanting of the holy names, you'll find happiness. So I gave her a few. Then we brought the son and the mom together, and we started to talk. Ananda Tirtha and I began to speak to her, and then after a while, we kept keeping in touch with them telephonically via WhatsApp. And one day he just sent us a little note saying, "I have a gift for you." So we asked him, there's no need for a gift. He says, "No, you're actually reading these books. They've changed my life. I'm ready to meet death now." Because all this while he's fighting death. He didn't want to die. He felt he was too young. He was in his 40s. And he felt he was too young to leave his body. But when he read Prabhupada's books, especially The Science of Self-Realization, he got to know, he became more acquainted with himself, who he is, what's going to happen to him after death, and why he shouldn't worry about dying or leaving the body, because the soul never dies. The soul is never burnt by fire or killed by a weapon, or, destroyed by wind. So he got to know about the power of the soul. And as a result, he gave up fighting death. He accepted his situation. And when he sent us this this little gift that he wanted us to have as a token of his gratitude, within a week from that, he passed on. So he came into contact with Prabhupada's book at the right moment, and nothing happens by chance. Obviously, Krishna directed that, this soul needs this information, and as a result, we were the instruments to give him these books. There's another incident where we were doing books at a mall, and this one guy, he just looked at me and he says, "Madam, I'm on the verge of committing suicide. I have all the methods. I know what I'm going to do, how I'm going to take my life." I said, "No, don't even think of that." And then I just gave him Chant and Be Happy. I said, "While I'm here, page through the book, read." And then he went to the chapter where George Harrison gives a little excerpt about the chanting. And he read the little of it, and he says, I think I will take the book, but I don't have not a cent on me. I said, "It's not all about the money. You can have the book, but promise me you will read it and never contemplate suicide." And those were the two incidents where I feel people were on the verge of, making the wrong decisions, and were saved by Prabhupada's books. Thank you.
We have to involve as many people, as many devotees as we can, because each devotee has their own circle, their own network of people that they can have access to, that we don't have access to. Some people have access to like libraries, some people have access to administrations and different kind of access. So the more we involve people, and then every one of these persons have their own ideas and their own ways how they can go about distributing books, and this can help us a lot to spread the number of books that we can distribute. For instance, in here we have young adults who are just now into their exploring their work environment, and they are devotees, and they have access to their peers that are not people who we can meet on the streets. They have another kind of lifestyle, and through these people, to these devotees, we can distribute books not necessarily on the streets, but in the places where they socialize, for instance, in the places where they are working, for instance. So the more we enlarge the circle of devotees who are involved in distributing books, the more we can access people that are in their own circle.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. It's, something to add on as well. Here in South Africa, we're involved in a few other preaching programs that's there. And one of those preaching programs is actually where we would send Back to Godhead magazines to prisons in South Africa. And we would send it via the prison administration system. And there would be devotees, prisoners who would actually get the magazines and eventually reach out to devotees in the congregation and inquire a bit more. So the books that goes out, the magazines that goes out, there was even someone who came out of prison completely, with a change of heart, very repentful of what it is that he had done, but wanting to change his life like that. Another place I know, because for someone who's always busy, that's there, and where do we leave books? Keep a book in the car and give someone when you get a chance. I work in a hospital. So in the mortuary in the hospital, we were allowed to put a stand, and we had put Prabhupada's books on the stand. Books very relevant around death, and hearing Palika Mataji speak, it brought back this memory of when we had put the stand that was there in the hospital mortuary. Because while family was actually waiting to collect their loved ones, they would sit for 2-3 hours sometimes just waiting. And being able to see these books that's there, Life Comes from Life, coming back, those books actually gave them something to read while they were waiting, and also helped them to deal with the passing of their loved one. So Palika Mataji, can completely resonate with the stories that you've shared, because families, patients' families come back to tell us, I read this book, what is it about? So definitely wherever we leave these books, they transform lives, I think, not just of us that's there as book distributors, but also of the people receiving the books and the families around that. In terms of books traveling, because that's something else that Prabhu had mentioned in his videos. Prem Vilas Prabhu, can you speak a little bit now in Mauritius? We have through BBT Africa, we've been able to print books in Creole. We've been able to get French books out there. What has been the impact of having these books in the local languages and making it available to the broader communities within these countries?
Yes, actually, we are trying to broaden the preaching in Mauritius so that we can reach other communities. Basically, in Mauritius, most of the people who come to this temple are from the Hindu community, but we have a few from other communities also, but we want to broaden them, and we think that books in the local language, the Creole language, will help us enormously to do that. We already had one small book, On the Way to Krishna, that was translated, and we managed to distribute quite a lot of them. And now we are waiting for the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, to be translated in Creole, and it is going to be launched very soon. And we think that this will help us to get access to people who feel more comfortable reading in their local language and understanding where everything that's in these books, these transcendental words, very, very easily in their own language.
Palika Mataji, in your preaching in South Africa particularly, where we have 12 different languages, including sign languages and official language in the country, how does language pose a barrier to preaching and to book distribution, and how have you been able to overcome that barrier?
Yes, we were in Soweto during the Rath Yatra, Soweto Rath Yatra. We were trying to distribute all the books. Most of the books we had were in English. And I happened to have the last book, which was the Bhagavad Gita. And a young girl came along and she wanted to know what we were doing. I explained the whole Rath Yatra, why we have the Rath Yatra. And I told her, I have this last book, which is the Bhagavad Gita. And this is the song of God. It is the same, like the Bible is to the Christian, this is to the Hare Krishnas, this book. It's like, I explained this to her and I gave her a little synopsis of the Bhagavad Gita. She says, my only problem is I am English, I can understand English, but my parents wouldn't understand the book. I said, then you have a big, you can read the book to your family and or you can read the book and translate it while you speaking to them, or each verse you read, translate it to them in your language. In that way, you can, read the Bhagavad Gita to the family and they can also understand, because she had old parents. And she took the book.
Our next insert is actually from Pastor Wilson Kariuki. So Pastor Kariuki, in 2011, he was walking in the streets and he met the devotees who were selling books. And he actually took his first book that he took was similar to yourself, Parika Mataji, was A Science of Self-Realization. And he actually continued to buy books and acquire knowledge from Srila Prabhupada that he uses himself in his preaching.
I greet you all, Hare Krishna religion, devotees, and members. My name is Pastor Wilson Kariuki. In the year 2005, I went to seminary college to study theology. When we were running a course on evangelism, we were taught of major religions and the holy books like Hare Krishna religion and the holy book Bhagavad Gita. Also Islam and the holy book Quran and other major religions like Buddhism. In the year 2011, around December, when I was walking in Nairobi street in Kenyatta Avenue, I met Hare Krishna devotees selling their books. I bought the first book called The Science of Self-Realization. After reading that book, I gained much knowledge. And from there, I continued buying those Hare Krishna religion books, plus His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada autobiography. From there, I gained much knowledge from those books. After gaining those knowledge, or gaining that knowledge, it helped me a lot spiritually, and especially when I'm teaching Bible study and preaching. And up to date, I'm so grateful of the knowledge that I acquired from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I encourage the devotees to continue spreading the Hare Krishna religion consciences to all the people, to people of all regions in the world, because they will learn more and you'll be blessed for the good work you are doing. I'm so grateful to the devotees and especially to Dwaka Vasini, because whenever I have any question, I have been calling her through the phone. She also made me to be one of the crash head for Bhagavad Gita through WhatsApp group, and I was so much helped.
There was a very inspirational video from Pastor Kairuki about interfaith preaching and the impact that Srila Prabhupada's books has in other faiths and other religions. Gopakumar Prabhu, can you share some stories or some experiences that you've had with interfaith preaching and the impact of Prabhupada's books locally?
I have distributed quite a number of books to pastors, Christian pastors, and they're using this Prabhupada's philosophy on the religion. And I've been I had a program with a mosque in one of the mosques in Cape Town, where I used to go and give lectures on Fridays, and few members of the mosque will take books and read. They come to the temple now and then. So people have faith in Prabhupada's books, even though somehow some of them, they're still attached to their own religion, which is not a bad thing. We're not against that. So yeah, there's been progress in interfaith preaching. Hare Krishna.
Prem Vilas Prabhu, if you can share as well with regards to interfaith preaching that's there, with regards to alternative thinking that's there as well. How have you seen Prabhupada's books impact the broader community?
We recently brought some Bhagavad Gitas in Arabic language, and this was distributed to some of the contacts that we have. It went very fast. A few boxes of the Bhagavad Gita in Arabic, and everything was finished in very fast, in a few days. Because people from other faiths, they also want to know what's there. Why so many people are joining, and they are feeling very happy to be in this environment. So as a devotee, we had a few interaction like this. And especially here in Mauritius, people are very open, and when you go on street to distribute books, many people will take books from other communities. And then we recently met one lady who took a Bhagavad Gita, and she was very curious about it. And the moment she was introduced to it, she took one Bhagavad Gita, and right there and then on the street, she started to read, and she was really amazed by the knowledge. So this knowledge that is contained in Srila Prabhupada's books, it does not know any borders, any barriers. Anyone can read it and improve their lives, even if they are practicing another religion. So this is definite.
Devotees, I think our time is almost up. If I can ask each of you to make a few closing comments or final comments that's there, what would you like to leave our viewers with relating to our theme of touching lives and touching hearts one book at a time?
So yes, this is a very beautiful theme, and I think that every devotee who is a follower of Srila Prabhupada should take up that as a personal mission, to at least once in their lifetime they can touch someone's life with a book. If they're not doing it regularly, but at least once in their life, they should engage in distributing books and having people have access to this vast treasure of spiritual knowledge. This is my take on all this. Thank you.
I would love to encourage devotees to distribute books. The problem with book distribution, if you never distribute it, is fear of what people might react in the streets. Obviously, because we're not used to it, the neglecting part when people ignoring part when people ignore you when you stop them in the streets becomes the hardest. Makes book distribution the hardest. But if you carry on, regardless of being ignored, you just carry on doing it. It comes to the point where one is no longer caring about being ignored in the streets and start having like lots of bliss in distributing books. That's guaranteed. Once you get the hook of it, like break this wall of fear of being ignored. After that, it's just bliss. You won't be able to live without distributing books. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Palika Mataji, your final comments.
We are not the doers. We just have to take the book, hold the book, and Krishna will do the rest. Many times I find that going out in the streets and distributing books, you learn humility. Humility is one quality which is very difficult to attain. The best way to attain humility is going out, getting ignored. I got sworn at, and boy, the person paid for that. And we were in, I'll give you a quick story. We were in the Verulam marketplace, and we were distributing books. And one of the gentlemen, it was a very busy street, and he was in his car. We approached him, and he says, he swore. So I walked away. Obviously, I wasn't affected. I walked away, and no sooner had I walked away, I heard a huge, loud crash. And when I turned, this guy had bumped into another car. So that's one incident that had spurred me on in my sankirtan, continuing with book distribution. It's because the Lord actually takes personal care of you. And in my childishness, I looked up and I said to the Lord, "Oh, my dear Lord, you shouldn't have done that. I didn't take offense." So to become humble and to acquire the quality of humility, we need to go out and get those, like Prabhu was saying, you get ignored, you get sworn at, or you get, "Oh, just leave me alone," or whatever. We should bear with all of these little things, because with it comes a lesson, which is humility. And Krishna will, as you continually do this, Krishna will take personal care of you, and he will direct you to the people that need you. So you just have to become an instrument in the Lord's hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Palika Mataji. Devotees, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your realizations, your experiences, and your advice. May you be blessed to distribute many, many, many more thousands of books across Africa. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.